The alarm should not have gone off. That's when I knew something was wrong. A few years ago, I worked at a small college on the East Coast. I was part of the physical education department. I taught classes, trained athletes, and also used the campus gym for my own personal training clients. The campus was usually full of life, runners on trails, cyclists passing through, students everywhere. But for 2 weeks every August, it turned into something else entirely. Empty. Silent. Almost abandoned. During that time, the school shut off power to most buildings to save money. Only 2 buildings stayed active, administration and the physical education building where I worked. That building was strange even during the day. It was built into a hill, with 4 floors and 3 different entrances at different levels. The layout confused everyone at first. The entrance I used was on the 3rd floor, connected to a small staff parking lot. Inside, it opened into a basketball court, with stairs leading down to my office on the 2nd floor. That night, I was alone. It was a Saturday in early August. I had just finished my last client and decided to stay late and work out. Since I was the only one authorized to be there, I locked the entrance behind me and set the alarm system. No one was supposed to get in. After my workout, I went to my office to finish some paperwork. That's when I heard it, the alarm. A sharp, sudden blaring sound that echoed through the empty building. I walked to the nearest keypad and checked the display. 1st floor entrance. Triggered. I frowned. This wasn't the first time. Sometimes joggers or cyclists would try to get inside for water or a bathroom. So I turned off the alarm and headed downstairs. When I reached the 1st floor, I opened the door and looked outside. Nothing. No movement. No sound. No one walking away. I stepped out, checked both directions, then went back inside and locked the door. That's when I heard it. A heavy stomp. Above me. I froze. "Hello," I called out. Another stomp. Then another. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. "Hello." I shouted louder, trying to sound more serious. The stomping continued. I felt irritation rising. Maybe it was another staff member messing around. I started climbing the stairs. Each step I took echoed, but the stomping above me didn't match mine. It stayed ahead of me. I reached the 2nd floor. Still above. 3rd floor. Still above. That made no sense. The only thing on the 4th floor was the main office, and it should be locked, dark, and empty. Trying to stay calm, I walked toward the office. The lights were off. Motion sensors should have turned them on if anyone was inside. I checked the door. Locked. I stood there, confused, my mind trying to explain it. Then the alarm went off again. Loud. Sudden. Closer this time. I ran to the keypad. 3rd floor east entrance. Now I was annoyed. I sprinted across the lobby, threw open the door. Nothing. Empty again. No footsteps. No shadows. No one running. I locked it and turned back. The alarm screamed again. I rushed back to the panel. 3rd floor south entrance. My entrance. Now I felt something else. Not just confusion. Fear. The fastest way there was across the basketball court. The door was supposed to be locked, but I forced it open and ran across the dark, polished floor. I pushed through the exit and stepped outside. The parking lot was empty. Just my car. No one hiding. No one running. By now, my heart was pounding hard. This wasn't normal. This wasn't someone playing a joke. I went back inside, heading toward my office to call campus security. I was halfway down the stairs when it happened. On the landing below me, a man stepped into view. He was tall. Unnaturally tall. At least it felt that way in the moment. He moved fast. Too fast. He leaned in close. So close his face was inches from mine, and said one word. "Hello." His voice was calm. Almost friendly. Then he walked past me. Just like that. Up the stairs. I couldn't move. I stayed frozen, pressed against the wall, gripping it to stay upright. My mind couldn't process what just happened. Seconds passed. Maybe minutes. Finally, I forced myself to move. I went back to my office, locked the door, and sat there trying to breathe normally. Eventually, my wife texted me, asking why I wasn't home yet. That snapped me out of it. I grabbed my things and headed for the exit. But when I reached the door, I stopped. A thought hit me hard. What if he was outside, waiting? I hesitated, then slowly opened the door. The parking lot was empty. The relief I felt in that moment was overwhelming. I got in my car and drove off, scanning every corner, every shadow. I didn't see him again. Not that night. Not ever. But even now, years later, I still think about it. How did he get in? How did he move through the building without me seeing him? And the one question I can't shake: was he the one triggering the alarms? Or was something else leading me straight to him? I didn't think much of it until I found my neighbor's stolen bike inside my shed. A couple months ago, something started to feel off at home. Not in an obvious way. Nothing you could point at and say, that's the problem. It was just a quiet, nagging feeling, like something didn't belong, like the air in the house had shifted slightly. At first, I ignored it. I live in a duplex with my wife and our 2 dogs. There's another guy who lives on the same property, mid-20s, pretty normal. We each have our own space, but we share a laundry room that connects to both backyards, separated by a fence. Everything was fine, until he texted me one night. "Hey man, just a heads up. Someone stole my bike." That immediately felt strange. To get to that shared laundry/sunroom area, you'd have to either climb over a brick fence surrounded by thick bushes or somehow walk through one of our homes unnoticed. Neither option made much sense. Still, things get stolen. I told him I'd keep an eye out and started being more careful about locking doors. A couple weeks later, something else started happening. Every time I let my dogs into the backyard, one of them would go straight to the shed. Sniffing. Scratching. Completely focused on it. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe a lizard or some small animal got in there. It was getting warmer, so that wasn't unusual. But it kept happening. Every single day. For over 2 weeks. Same behavior. Same spot. Eventually, it got to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. One afternoon, I decided to check. I walked out to the shed, unlocked it, and pulled the door open. At first glance, everything looked normal. Old storage, boxes, camping gear. Nothing out of place. Then I looked closer, and my stomach dropped. Leaning against the wall was my neighbor's bike, the one that had been stolen. For a second, my brain tried to come up with any explanation that wasn't what it clearly was. Did my wife bring it in? No, that made no sense. Did my neighbor somehow put it here? Why would he do that? None of it added up. Then I noticed something else. In the corner, partially hidden behind a box, was one of our sleeping bags. Unrolled. Messy. Like it had been used. I slowly walked over and pulled it back. Inside was a small stash. Loose change. Mostly small bills. Maybe $20 total. Next to it, trash. Food wrappers. Empty packages. Crumpled plastic. That's when it hit me. Someone had been living in my shed. Not just stopping by, staying there. Sleeping. Eating. Hiding. I felt this wave of discomfort wash over me. How long had this been going on? How many nights had someone been just a few feet away from my house, while we slept inside? I stepped back, suddenly very aware of how quiet everything was. I didn't touch anything else. I just closed the shed door and locked it. That night, I brought in the spare key I used to hide outside. If someone had been getting in, that was probably how. I didn't sleep well. Every small noise made me alert. Every creak felt different. The next morning, I installed cameras. Front yard. Backyard. covering the shed. If someone came back, I'd know. 3 nights passed. Nothing. No movement. No footage. No sign of anyone. Part of me felt relieved. The other part felt worse. Because if no one was coming back, where did they go? I didn't want to jump to calling the police right away. If this was someone desperate, someone just trying to survive, I didn't want to make things worse for them. So I started calling local shelters, explaining what I found. The bike, the wrappers, the setup. Most people had no idea. Until I spoke to one woman. She had been working with the homeless community for decades. I described everything. She paused for a moment, then asked, "Did you find a lot of small muffin wrappers? Like those little snack packs?" I blinked. "Yeah, a bunch of them." She let out a small sigh. "Then I think I know who it is. You don't need to worry. That's probably Dan." "Dan?" I asked. "People call him Old Man Dan," she said. "He's been around for years." She explained that Dan was likely a veteran who had struggled for a long time. He lived off the grid, moving from place to place. But he had a pattern. He would create small bases around the city. Hidden spots, sheds, empty structures, places people rarely checked. Sometimes he stayed for days, sometimes for months. And the way people recognized his setups, those same snack wrappers. "He's not dangerous," she said. "He actually avoids people. If he thinks he's not welcome, he leaves." That explained the cameras. He must have seen them and moved on. I stood there, phone in hand, trying to process everything. Relief came first, then something else. Unease. Because even if he wasn't dangerous, he had been there, watching, listening, existing just outside our lives. I arranged for the woman to pick up the items. I gave her the money I found, and added a little more. She took the sleeping bag too. My neighbor got his bike back. Everything went back to normal, at least on the surface. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I still think about it. About how close he was. About how easily someone can exist right next to you without you ever knowing. And one thought always lingers longer than the rest. What if my dogs hadn't noticed? My brother didn't slowly change. He became someone else almost overnight. We used to be close. Not just normal siblings. We actually liked each other. We grew up doing everything together. Movie nights, family dinners, long car rides, stupid inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. Even as adults, that didn't really change. We didn't talk every day, but we had our thing. Once a month, we'd play video games for hours. That was our time. No matter how busy life got, we kept that. Then something shifted. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. He told me he started going to church. That was new. No one in our family was particularly religious, and he never showed interest before. But people find their own paths, right? I didn't question it. But within weeks, it escalated. He didn't just go to church, he lived there. Every conversation started circling back to religion. Not casually, intensely. He stopped talking about normal things. No more jokes. No more shared memories. It was like those parts of him were just gone. He became secretive too. I asked him what church it was. He wouldn't tell me. I asked if I could visit. He avoided the question. He said he spent most of his time there, late into the night, helping. That didn't sit right with me. Then came the first moment that actually scared me. At the end of one of our calls, he said, "Are you ready to give your life to God, or do you want to suffer forever?" He didn't say it like a question. He said it like a warning. I laughed it off at the time, but it stayed with me. A few weeks later, he went home to visit our parents. My mom called me after. Something was wrong. She said he barely spoke the entire time. Just sat there, watching. Observing. Even when he looked at her, she said it felt like he wasn't really there. Like something behind his eyes had changed. He kept his distance. Didn't hug anyone. Didn't smile. She told me, quietly, "I don't think he's coming back." That hit hard. But I still held on to our game nights. That was the one place he still felt like my brother. Or at least, I thought so. The last time we played, everything felt normal at first. We were laughing, talking, playing for hours like we always did. For a moment, I felt relieved. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe he just needed time. But then it got late. Really late. I told him I needed to get off. He wouldn't let me. Every time I tried, he pulled me back into another game, another conversation. He kept me there until almost 2 a.m. Looking back, it felt desperate. Like he didn't want to lose that connection. Like he knew something was about to change. A few days later, I found out he gave his console away. Just gave it away. To someone from the church. I was upset. That was our thing. He knew that. So I called him. That conversation is something I'll never forget. He sounded calm. Clear. Too clear. "I gave it away because I don't need distractions anymore," he said. "Distractions?" I asked. He paused. Then said something that made my stomach drop. "My wife is coming." I thought he was joking. "What?" "My future wife," he said. "I've seen her. I know she's coming soon." There was no hesitation. No uncertainty. Just complete belief. I tried to reason with him. "You don't even know her." "I don't need to," he said. "I've been shown." I didn't know what to say. Then he went further. "She won't approve of my current relationships." A cold feeling settled in my chest. What does that mean? Another pause. And "I'm going to have to cut you off." Silence. I honestly thought I misheard him. "What?" "You're a temptation," he said. "I can't have anything in my life that pulls me away from my purpose." I felt sick. "This is insane," I said. "I'm your sister." "I know," he replied. And somehow, that made it worse. There was no anger in his voice. No emotion at all. Just certainty. Like he had already made peace with losing me. Like I didn't matter anymore. I tried everything. Logic. Emotion. Memories. Nothing reached him. It was like talking to a wall that used to be my brother. Before we ended the call, he said one more thing. "I'm leaving soon." "Leaving where?" "Overseas," he said. "That's where I'll find her." My heart dropped. "You don't even know if she exists." "I do," he said quietly. "I've been chosen." Chosen. That word echoed in my head long after the call ended. Since then, things have only gotten worse. He avoids our parents. Doesn't respond to messages. No more games. No more calls. Just a gone. But not completely. Because sometimes, I still get texts. Short ones. Cold ones. "Are you ready yet? Time is running out." You don't understand what's coming. I don't know what kind of place he's involved with. I don't know who's influencing him. And honestly, I'm not sure I want to find out. Because whatever it is, it took my brother and replaced him with someone who looks the same, but feels like a stranger. And the worst part? A small, terrifying thought keeps creeping in. What if he really believes he's saving me by cutting me out of his life? I thought I had found the perfect apartment, until I realized I was living with someone who was slowly unraveling. Moving abroad alone was already stressful. So when I found a clean, modern apartment in a good area, at a reasonable price, it felt like luck finally going my way. Her name was Penny. She was the one renting out the rooms. She said she was a lawyer, worked long hours, and wanted quiet, responsible roommates. That sounded perfect to me. When I first met her, she seemed normal, polite, a little reserved, maybe, but nothing unusual. I moved in the following month. At first, everything was fine. Then, small things started to feel off. There had been another girl living there before me. Penny told me she had to force her out because she wasn't paying rent. But later, that same girl contacted me. She told me a completely different story. She said Penny would send her strange, insulting messages late at night. Random, aggressive comments that didn't make sense. Eventually, things escalated so badly that she got locked out of the apartment, and the police had to be called. That should have been my warning. But I ignored it. Because I didn't have anywhere else to go. It was just me, Penny, and a young maid who lived with us. The maid was about 20, hired by Penny's family to take care of her. She barely spoke at first. Then I discovered something important. Penny had lied. She wasn't a lawyer. She didn't have a job at all. Every morning, she'd pretend to leave for work. Every evening, she'd come back and talk about her day. But the maid told me the truth. Penny never left the apartment. Not once. That was the moment I realized. Almost everything she said was a lie. Still, I tried to mind my own business. Until I noticed how she treated the maid. It was disturbing. She wouldn't let her go outside. Wouldn't let her talk to people. Barely let her eat properly. One day, I decided to teach the maid how to read. She was excited. She wanted to learn. But when Penny found out, she told me to stop. She said it was pointless. That people like her didn't need education. That they wouldn't benefit from it anyway. That didn't sit right with me. So we kept it secret. The maid would hide her notebook during the day, and we'd practice when Penny wasn't paying attention. That's when things started getting worse. Penny became more intense. She would talk non-stop, 40 minutes at a time, without letting me say a single word. She followed me around the apartment, continuing conversations that felt one-sided, like she was talking to herself. Then came the lies. Big ones. Small ones. Constant. She told me she came from a powerful family. That she had traveled the world. That she owned expensive things. That her boyfriend had died. I later found out he was alive. She lied about everything. Even things that didn't matter. And the scariest part? She seemed to believe her own stories. Her behavior became more erratic. She barely slept at night. She drank heavily. Mixed alcohol with medication. Sometimes, I'd hear her pacing the hallway at 3 or 4 in the morning. Back and forth. Back and forth. Other times, she'd stay completely silent, pretending she wasn't home. Even when I knew she was right there. The maid started telling me more. Penny's family knew something was wrong. They would call constantly to check on her. Sometimes they'd send relatives to visit. But nothing ever changed. They just left her there. And left the maid with her. The situation got darker. Penny controlled everything. Food. Movement. Communication. The maid was paid almost nothing. Worked nearly all day. And was treated like she didn't matter. One night, everything snapped. I heard shouting. At first, I thought Penny was on the phone. Then the maid called me, crying. She said Penny was threatening her. I confronted Penny. She brushed it off. Said the maid was being difficult. That she was stressed. That she needed to relax. That night, I heard something I'll never forget. Penny screaming at the maid over the phone. Demanding she bring her a drink. Insulting her. Degrading her. The drink was already in the kitchen. She just wanted control. The next day, the maid told me she was leaving. She was scared. She said if she stayed, something bad would happen. But Penny's family told her not to leave. Even after hearing everything. They didn't help her. They just wanted her to stay. That was the moment I realized. No one was coming to fix this. The next morning was chaos. The maid packed her things. Penny exploded, screaming, insulting, threatening, calling her worthless, saying she had no right to leave. Then it got worse. She dragged the maid's bags outside, dumped everything onto the ground, went through her belongings piece by piece, accusing her of stealing, even tried to take back a small gift I had given her. The maid was shaking, terrified, but she didn't back down. With some help, we arranged for her to leave safely. That same day, I decided I had to get out too. I stayed 2 more nights. Those were the longest nights I've ever experienced. Penny barely came out of her room, but I could hear her, moving, talking, laughing quietly to herself. The night before I left, I tried to tell her I was moving out. She didn't answer the door, pretended she wasn't there. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened, smiling, telling me she had gone out with friends the night before. I knew she was lying. Again. After I left, she refused to return my deposit, ignored my messages, then suddenly sent dozens of texts, claiming I was the one avoiding her, that I had promised to come back, that I was the problem. It didn't make sense. Nothing about her ever did. Eventually, I had someone else collect the money. He told me when he went to the apartment, it was dark, completely dark. She made him sit there for nearly an hour, talking, telling him how unstable I was. Then he heard it. A laugh. Low. Strange. Unnatural. He said it didn't sound like a normal person. He left as fast as he could. I never went back. But I still think about that place. About the lies. The control. The way she created her own reality and pulled others into it. And one thought still unsettles me the most. How many people saw her as normal, just long enough to move in?